Alright, welcome back under the sea for another randomly selected nation in another game of Dominions 5, and it is time for the conquest of, well, R'lyeh. But our story in R'lyeh in this game is a little bit different. Our god, the last unburned Australian, is an Australian who fled from my currently burning country through the celestial spheres to the only place an Australian can ever be truly safe from fire, under the bloody sea. Also, we're now mind-controlling squid people. So, the last unburned Australian, our god, and the last koala are here on this nice little map in the hopes that we can build a new home for ourselves. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to cover my plan for initial expansion. I've chosen turn 2 as the turn I'm going to demonstrate because I'm going to do something a little bit unusual in that I'm not going to expand because my draw is a bit and then we're going to talk about the expansion plan. We're going to talk about who we know our neighbours to be. Then we're going to jump forward to turn 6, show how the initial stages of expansion worked, and talk through what the strategy for the rest of year 0 is going to be. I'm hoping to cover, in the summary style, quite a few turns in each of these videos, while staying about 15 turns behind the play if I can. I also will at some point finish the Atlantis and Orm games. It's just a case of downloading whatever files I can recover in order to basically reproduce the videos that I lost when I lost my old computer SSD. So let's talk about R'lyeh and what the condition we've drawn in. So we're here and we've got a scales build R'lyeh. We are turmoil, but we're productivity 3, growth 3, luck 3, magic 2. Spoiler alert, this luck 3 doesn't really do anything for me so far in the game, but you never know what bad events it has prevented happening in the first instance. The reason we've gone production 3, growth 3 is both the economics, but also the production 3 is there for the almighty meteorite guards. So our expansion plan and initial production will be to combine meteorite guard recruitment, so frontliners, and then using the rest of our recruitment point density on mind-blasting illithids who cost gold but not the resources desperately needed for the meteorite guards, and then to use the remaining balance of resources to fill out our little Lobo guard chaff blobs. We're in an unfortunate situation where we've spawned. We have 50 units consisting of an unknown number of militias and shamblers to our north. We've got a throne with 200 units here. We've got shamblers here, Triton troopers and shark knights. Don't know how many shark knights down here in the faraway sea. And Whalewind Waters 150 is small, only 20 units, but those are Shark Tribe, and Shark Tribe are dual attack berserking mofos who will eat their way through the chaffy sort of units I have. And the R'lyeh starting army is, it's god-awful. It's absolutely god-awful. You get 20 Lobo Guard who are useless for anything other than blocking, and then you get 10 naked slave troopers who hit hard but have no defense, basically, no protection. It's a very bad army. You need to recruit a little bit in order to boost this up, or you need to have an Awake Expander, and I don't have an Awake Expander. What I'm going to do is start sending this priest into the Void Gate, and then the last unburned koala is going to wait for another recruitment round, for example, of something like this. It would be something like that, I imagine. Like that, and then we might be able to fit in something like that. As our next round of recruitment, that'll bulk out our army. 6 Mind Blasts is enough to break up enemy infantry. We'll have a few more quality troops in there, and we'll bulk out the chaff a little bit, and that is hopefully going to be enough to break out in whatever the direction of the weakest foe is. Then, like every other nation, we'll go on and we'll produce another expansion party and try and go in the opposite direction. The 2 cardinal directions for expansion are going to be east, because these shambles are actually probably an easier task than some. There'll be a minor task west, but I think we'll immediately hit land nations here. This is a very compact map, by the way, very compact. South, of course, if we go south, one of the people I do know is that the Jabolbans, the frog people who are all sharing the water with me, are down here. So we will end up relatively close to them relatively quickly, contesting for water. So we're corralled, we're going to be watered off land, so it's a question of how far we can break out and how quickly. We won't have any researchers immediately, but we'll work on it. I will come back in turn 6 and I can give you a lot more intelligence about how this expansion worked in its initial phases, who I found, and what I was thinking as the game went into its next stage. Give me a moment and I'll change over to turn 6. Alright, we're back, and we've got 2 sample expansions for us to see. But first let's quickly look at the map and where we've landed. So we were able to take those shamblers. That was the easiest path out, and we decided that the other options were really a little bit threatening. In particular, we found out there are more shark tribe than expected. There are about 30 there we've zoned in on, and there are definitely some shark knights and armoured Triton spearmen in here, both of whom are a bit tough for our armies, so we've had to break out along a single axis to our east. We've taken Ocean of Our Lord, which is fortunately a very good province, after taking 174 first, and now we've made our way onto land. The reason we can get away with going onto land is a couple-fold, and it comes down to the diplomacy of this area. But before we talk about that, let's just show some typical expansion batteries for R'lyeh, one underwater and one on land, so you can see the difference. So I use a combination of Lobo Guard. Whoa! Hold on, I'm going to stop recording for a moment and turn my sound way down, if that's okay, because I just deafened myself. Alright, let's see if this is any better. Yeah, it's more moderate. Okay, so here you've got your typical sort of deer tribe. Deer tribe are not great for R'lyeh because deer tribe mulch through squishy troops, and we've got mostly squishy troops because this is early, so I've still got my squishy disposable guys up front, and I've got the Lobo Guard there as well. They're mostly up front because I needed something to attract arrows to make sure it didn't land on the Illithids, who are not pierce resistant, they're only blunt resistant. What happens here is the Illithids start mine blasting, which breaks up the formations a little bit, and then our troops are able to sort of deal with them piecemeal, I suppose, is a better answer to that question. You can see the Barbarian Lord gets mine blasted there because they have terrible MR, and this crappy troop line advances and basically gangs up on enemy troops one at a time. But you'll notice we're very vulnerable to arrow fire, even short bows. Short bows are usually useless in this age. Lobo Guard hate short bows. They eat them for breakfast. Anyway, so that was a typical on-land one, and it's another example of why we don't like to be on land, because you don't encounter bows underwater unless you're fighting Erythia. So we lose 14 Lobo Guards, so credit that as 7 actual troops and 6 slave troopers killing 42 Wolf Tribe. You'll see that there's attrition involved. There is attrition involved in expanding as R'lyeh, and that's just fine. But we've managed to seize out those 2 provinces. This is an example of a typical underwater expansion, I believe. Yep, so a mixture of Shamblers and Atlanteans. We are outnumbered strongly. We've got some chaff here, but the real guts here is this very small group of Meteorite Guard and 6 Mine Blasters. And 6 Mine Blasters per team is a significant investment. It's quick to get out, but it's significant. Anyway, I misscripted that a little bit. The Lobos got to the front a little too soon, but this was what I intended, where the Meteorite Guards filter through the Lobos and are able to deal damage while not taking a huge number of hits themselves, because the Lobos will never rout. And the key here is I needed those Tridents to be up there to kill the Shamblers, because they're the ones that do damage. But once again, you can see the effect of Mine Blasters, not so much in killing units, but in breaking up the enemy forces and allowing us to take it. So here, underwater, 13 casualties among the Lobo Guard, so, 65 gold, but we killed, 14 Shamblers, 20 Militia Chief, and we took a province worth 102 gold. So it paid, being a little bit aggressive and losing those Lobo Guard to take it even one turn earlier was totally worth it. So we bought these 2 expansion routes, and then we entered into frenetic diplomacy. So, what are we researching? Who have we found? What are we doing? We've just finished researching Thaumaturgy 1 because we need it for communions. We're then going to go to Alteration 2, and then I think I'm going to go Conjuration all the way up to 5 to get myself Water Elementals, because Water Elementals are what I need if relations ever break down with the frogs over here of Xibalba. So locations, Eriu, capital, right here. Xibalba, capital, right here. Ermor, capital, I think in here, this area. This is the zombie apocalypse on this map. And this is Xibalba, and this is Eriu. I believe Kalem somewhere over here. Satis, middle-aged Satis, powerful nation, somewhere over there. Shinuyama is there, capital. And then, annoyingly for me, in this tiny little gap, which I have to go through in order to expand south, I think that's Vanheim. I think Vanheim is, like, right in here somewhere. Probably here from the descriptions I've been given. So I'm going to be in someone's cap circle if I want to go anywhere south. To take my cap circle, I'll be 1 away from someone else's cap circle. We're packed in close. I've been able to carve out this little area here because this river and this throne wards Eriu off expanding into this area. You have to take this province before you can take these 3. So I think I'm going to be able to build a little bit of a zone here, build a fort, and get some of those, get some coastal recruitment going, so I'm not entirely stuck in the ocean. If I was a blood nation, then I'd need these in order to blood hunt, but I'm not, and I like that. I don't like being a blood nation. It feels wrong. Mind blasting squid, sort of acceptable. Blood hunter, not. So clearly the key diplomatic relationships for me early are going to be with the Jabolbans, more than with anyone else. And the reason is because I basically have two choices. I can throw the Jabolbans out of the water and monopolize the water, or we can agree to do the terrible, typical water nation thing and agree to work together to the, destruction of everyone else. I'll talk to him. We'll try to come to... I think I'll try to come to a conclusion in that area. The person playing at Katagak, so Smokey the Carrion Bear, he will always be to me, or Wolf Dad from the Accidental Ascension game. Obviously, good bloke, good mate, so we'll see what we can work out there. If we can work out dueling expansion, the reality is, I'm aware of two things. Firstly, the fact that he is naturally amphibious, and so this is all natural expansion zone for him. Secondly, I know he's going to be pressured by the fact that Ermor is on his borders, so I can push him a bit. And thirdly, the fact is that if we had an underwater fight, I'd cream him, because Jabolba just doesn't have the underwater combat resources R'lyeh does. Underwater, meteorite guards eat frogs, and mine blasters destroy lots of things, and I have more water elemental capacity than he does, and I'm going to run straight for it. I'm not sure if I'll have more or less research than him. I suspect I will have more, because... my priest got eaten, by the way. My priest got eaten, and pretty much all I got in return was... Did I get anything? No, I haven't got anything yet. That's a shame. So my priest got eaten. I haven't replaced him yet. But that's okay. That happens. You send people into the Void Gate, and sometimes you pay the price for your pride. I think I'll have good research because he's probably going to be assassin expanding, which means chain recruiting assassins for the first few turns, whereas I at least got some mages out. And I have good magic scales, and my big researcher here is actually pretty efficient. All these guys are efficient. Star Children are efficient researchers in Magic 2. But Slave Mages are fast researchers with that 15 per 2 recruitment points. So what a deal there would give me is a relatively good chunk of the ocean. I'd push for a very good chunk of the ocean on the understanding that I'll let him do his thing, including resist the Ermorese. I'll have to keep an eye on Ermor because they're a clear and present danger in any game they play. Eriu is less of a threat. They're very unlikely to come underwater. They also face Calum and Ermor as threats. But they have good troops, and they may want to fight someone if they've got a good bless early on, but we'll see. My strategy is going to be to carve out little enclaves like this that are small enough that they aren't worth taking, so they aren't worth starting a war over with someone who can then raid you constantly from the ocean, and fortified enough that they'd be hard to take, but are big enough to solve the fact that I can't be entirely stuck in the ocean. Because if I'm entirely stuck in the ocean, I can't... You can never... Not just can you not win a game of Dominions if you're stuck in the ocean, you can't be relevant if you're entirely stuck in the ocean. So if I can get a little enclave here, maybe a little enclave up here, these islands... I'm less confident with capitals so closely packed. I don't think I'm going to be able to land over there. But this, something up on this southern coast here in these islands would probably be my goal for at least being semi-relevant, I guess. This is more for economics than reaching anywhere. But I want to be able to influence both parts of the continent. Ideally, you'd want a touch point with all three parts of the continent, but, beggars cannot in fact be choosers. You'll notice that I'm leading my expansion parties using slave mages, despite the fact they're horrible leaders. The reason is I need to be able to lead magical troops, by mind blasters. Slave mages can lead magic troops, they can lead a small number of conventional troops, and you really only need about 6 to 10 Meteorite Guard will do it. And Meteorite Guard with a -3 morale modifier are still sitting around 9-10 morale. The Mind Blasters are a bit lower. What should really be happening here is that should happen, which brings them up to 9, them up to 11. They won't take many morale checks because they're Mind Blasting, and hopefully these guys will never take many casualties. So what I'm going to do is probably bring reinforcements in and continue expansion up here. I like the Meteorite Guards in maximal quantities all the time. You can see I'm recruiting more. Eventually I'm going to turn the tap off on these Mind Blasters because they're an expensive but fast way to give you expanding power. But in the end, you're paying 40 gold per year for a single Mind Blasting troop. They're useful, but you don't want to stack your economy full of them or you'll choke on it. At the moment, I think if I do my planned production runs, if I add probably a major mage at this point, just to get one out and see what happens, I'm going to be tight on money. I'm not going to get a fort up yet. We'll see when I get my first ones up. R'lyeh's initial expansion is quite expensive because you have a lot of ways to spend gold in order to get combat power, by buying more Lobo Guard and by buying more Mind Blasters. So I doubt I'll have money to start infrastructure until a little bit later than some other people, but I'm going to trade that off for having a much more powerful army by about turn 12 than I otherwise would have, and hopefully that translates into provinces, and then I can get the infrastructure up, but we'll see. So no plans for wars, no news on wars, but the general locations seem to be, zombie apocalypse here, bordered by like toxic swampland, bird paradise, elven paradise, MA R'lyeh super frogs, GC's Shinoyama, Vano Rus, Marignan is somewhere in here, I believe, and then this is now just basically rumour. I can't confirm any of this. So this is just all friend of a friend of mine stuff. Ind and Nub. So Nubar, Ind, Caleb, I'm not sure what's going on down here. Anyway, this part of the landmass, all this centre land, you can see, look at these thrones. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 thrones, all deep inland. Nowhere near, well, this one's sort of near water, but these 3 thrones are nowhere near water. So if I want to be relevant, eventually I'm going to have to go on land. But the longer I stay off land, the more I'm less threatening to people. So plan for the moment is to not get too threatening on land, expand where I can, feel out my diplomatic relationships, try and keep driving that income a little bit higher, because that's going to be how I afford infrastructure. No gems found yet, unfortunate. No searches are out yet, but I will get there. I just want to get... ideally, I want a lot of things at once. I want another Void Summoner. I want a cap-only mage to see if I get big paths or death, in which case I can go search early. I want more slave mages for research, troop leading, and searching. I want more of everything. So we'll see how we go. I'll come back in a couple of turns once we're closer to where the game is currently up to. Not sure how long that will be. Not sure how this game will track. Can't read the future. But for now, farewell and wish R'lyeh all the best of luck.